please welcome the founder and CEO of Vacation with an Artist, Geetika Agrawal, founder and managing director Baraka, Hadad, and co-founder and CEO Mobility Mojo, Stephen Cluskey, in conversation with Skift founder and CEO Rafat Ali.
All right, hello friends.
Hello.
It would be again. So after that incredible music, I've broken out. I don't drink wine, but I've broken out of my chai. So let's get into it. So thank you again. Obviously, different time zones for each of you. So I know Muna, you're I think the latest in the night, right? What time is there, Jordan?
12:30 a.m.
12:30 a.m. Thank you for doing that, Stephen. I know you're in Ireland.
Heavily caffeinated and good.
Heavily caffeinated goods. Each of you have the distinction of speaking at the Global Forum before. Stephen, this is your third time, so you're winning for now. Muna, this is your second time. Geetika, obviously, this is your second time as well. What I wanted to do, each of you have what you would call startups or small businesses, and each of you have had. I've been in touch with, I think, all three of you through these times, and I know you've all gone through all kinds of challenges in these 7 months at this point. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart as well. Obviously, we're a small business, have gone through the pains that we've gone through as well, have unfortunately had to let a few people go as well. And so from each of you, starting with you, Muna, because you're the one that's coming right next to me in the screen, in terms of the last 7 months, what have the pains and challenges been for you? And I think small businesses, the reason I wanted to get this panel together is I feel like small businesses have this particular challenge in travel that some of the larger companies don't have to go through.
Certainly it's been quite traumatizing. We acted quite quickly, had to let go a lot of the team early on to protect the company so that we can survive long enough and then reopen when it was time. So it was very traumatizing in the beginning. And then, of course, there was a lot going on with all the lockdowns. Jordan had a particularly harsh lockdown. So it was a lot to take on. I think I'd say the biggest challenges have been psychological for every company owner I've been speaking to as well. Not knowing what's ahead, not seeing into the future, and not knowing how to plan. We're used to always working, always having something that we're working towards. We always have a plan, and there was none that we could come up with for this one. So it's certainly been challenging in that light. I think the hardest part as well for me personally was also seeing, we work in community-based tourism, so seeing the community we work very closely with.
Explain for those of you who may not know what Baraka is, just explain exactly what you do, because some of the people may not know this, obviously.
So Baraka Destinations is a company that works in rural areas or secondary tourism sites. We go into partnerships with local communities. We help them set up businesses that help them tell their story and validate themselves, and at the same time make an income. We've been quite successful in working in 2 villages in Jordan, and the people that have been working with us have really, grown tremendously from starting a small kitchen in a staircase, making pastries, to developing a large cooking school that has really become like this woman, Suleiman, has become an idol in the village. So these are the types of people we work with warriors, and to see not only us being defeated by this, but to see them being defeated and rather helpless is a very difficult thing.
Geetika, explain what VAWAA does, and for those of you who don't know, and what has the last 7 months been for you?
Yeah, so Vacation with an Artist, it's a website to book mini apprenticeships with master artists and makers all around the world. They used to be in person, but now you can also do that online, thanks to COVID. So last 6 months have been extremely, extremely challenging. Lot of existential questions and whatnot. Our team was very small, so we didn't have much to shed. We just gave up our co-working space, and that was about it. I think the hardest part was being a small company. As things were unfolding in the beginning, we don't have large policy teams. We just wanted to make sure we could find a quick way to keep all our guests who were on the road and all our artists in 27 countries safe and make sure they get home. And fortunately, all of that worked out. And after that, very quickly, we developed a new online product offering. So we've just been very busy with that. But of course, throughout these 6 months, I think questions around how long is our runway has been challenging, because being a small company, you don't have large runways, and so how do you maintain that? And it's so uncertain how long this is going to go. So that's been challenging. And the second is just, like Muna said, just psychological. I think keeping the team's confidence up, as well as yours, while the larger industry all around you is collapsing, is really hard. And you have those bright moments that, yeah, we're small and this is our chance, but it's also harder. So it's been just a lot of ups and downs. But overall, I would say we're really happy with our online offering, and that's been actually a blessing in disguise.
And we'll come to that in a second, because I want to dig a little deeper into that. Stephen, your business was all online, would be fair to say, correct? Because you're a metadata business. Explain what the business is so the people who know what it is, and then tell us what the 6 months have been, 7 months at this point.
Sure, and great to talk to you again, Rafat, and see you. It's been a while. So yeah, we work with hotel groups around the world. We help them to capture and to promote all their accessibility information. And really the mission is to empower people with disabilities to travel more, because we know that a large percentage of people with disabilities don't travel because of a gap of in information and disinformation. So that's what we do. But the last 6 months, I suppose, it's been interesting, Rafat. As a small company, I think there's lots of advantages to being small. We've been able to be innovative, to be agile, and I think there's been a lot of soul searching as well. What's happened with the lockdown. We've been locked down in Ireland for a couple of months, and being able to sit back and take stock of things. I read a great quote actually from someone who said it was that this whole COVID thing was like Mother Nature had sent us all to our bedrooms to think about what we'd done, the environment and that. And I do think there's been a lot of positives to come out of it. Frustration wise, I mean, we've a lot of momentum the last couple of months before COVID, which was great to see. So the frustration doesn't come from being small, it comes from what's happening with COVID around the world, but no different to any other company in the hospitality industry. We've been fortunate that we raised money last year, so in terms of cash flow and that, we've been okay, and we should be good for the foreseeable future with what we have. But at the same time, what's happening is not ideal.
And would it be fair to say, all three of you, that it was boom time right before this? I mean, travel was going like this. I mean, for us, Q1 was the best quarter we've had in our history. I'm guessing each of you are somewhere in that spectrum, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Jordan was booming tourism-wise. It was the best year yet. And, we had just been the cover story of a VAWAA magazine. We were doing really well. We were fully booked, overbooked actually. And then it like the drop was so visual that our reservation sheets just emptied out in a matter of hours. So.
And so each of you, I know you're obviously small businesses now, but your aspirations, each of you, have been big in terms of the impact you want to have in the world that you inhabit. What was that aspiration, each of you, and has that changed through these times? Any of you?
Okay, well, I can take that. So look, our mission is to empower. We know that more than 50% of people with accessibility needs don't travel because of a lack of information on accessibility. And that's the problem that we're looking to solve. We firmly believe we're going to solve that problem. That's on the user side of things. I mean, on the business side of things, we want to help hotels make more money, to bring in revenue, to make use of their accessible facilities, and the rooms that are generally the last to be sold in terms of the accessible bedrooms. We've seen to date from those that have implemented our solution that they're one of the first to be sold as a result of how we help. So that's the two sides of the market that we're looking to impact, and that hasn't changed.
And so your solution is basically as sites that hotel sites, you're able to drop this code and be able to tell people on the various levels of accessibility that hotels have, and then you rank them on different criteria and tell the hotels how to get better at it. Is that the right way to? Yeah,
mostly, Rafat. I mean, hotels have seen their accessibility as a compliance thing. It's like we have to tick that box. We have to abide by this law, rather than viewing it as an asset. And people traveling with accessibility needs, generally the one individual with accessibility needs determines where the whole group goes. So there's a real business case for that. And we've seen hotels that have implemented our solution to date have seen on average a 1,900% return on their investment. So it's really the business case which is driving this. But there's the genuine knock-on effect that it's significantly impacting end users' lives, people's lives around the world.
Geetika, so you obviously were doing physical, you're sending people, and you're not sending tours, if I'm mistaken. You're saying you're sending individual people to individual artists, correct?
That's right.
And so you were doing this one-to-one sending of people into these very immersive environments. You've pivoted to online tours and activities, I guess the larger sector that exists in. I don't know if that's what you would agree with, but tours and activities, the larger sector that exists in. There's early on in this pandemic, a lot of them pivoted to online. You said you have, and I've seen some of your some of them on your site. What has been the trajectory of it? Is it making up for any part of the larger pie?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. For us, we've been talking about personal fulfillment as the new aspiration for people in the experiences space, where that's why people want to travel. And we feel like that just got accelerated during COVID. And people are thinking about how to really live a meaningful life because all these conventional structures have failed them. And they're looking to build new skills for their life 2.0, which is going to be now and in the future post-COVID. So I think we've always believed in these one-to-one interactions that it was that intimate connection, the human connection with a master artist, where there's time-honored wisdom, where you have an opportunity to explore your inner creativity, and that's where profound experiences happen. So that's what we've stood for. And when we thought of the online, we said, well, how do you do that? Because when you can't be in an artist studio and you cannot be in a city away from home. So I think the key for us was maintaining that intimate connection with the artist, using the technology we have and allowing people to engage with these artists in more small bite sizes, but more often. So we've actually had a 10x more number of people who have been able to engage with VAWAA because of that. Because now they're just at home and they're just doing it every weekend. They engage for 2 hours with an artist in Greece, with an artist in Morocco. And the difference is that these are smaller groups. So it has also allowed them to build global friendships with people around the world, and they're seeing them every weekend. So from it has definitely increased our revenue from what it would have been if we didn't have this product. It has really brought a new revenue stream, and it has actually made our business model stronger because more people can engage. They can get a taste of VAWAA before they actually go try the in-person, and also post, it just gives people to engage with it more often.
And obviously the in-person is not functioning today.
We've had some people go, but it's been very few during these last few months. But it's open. The best part is because this is one-on-one. It's in an artist's private space. We can just control the COVID situation much better. It's not like in a public space, so it's a way safer way to travel. And so if we can find ways like destinations, if people can get to a place safely, then it's open.
So basically testing and then going, I suppose, is the way to do it.
Exactly. So we've had someone from US go to Croatia. They got multiple tests. They got tested at the airport. We had to wait for a week before they could finally confirm that they could be in the artist studio. So we've just been very flexible with those details, but they've been able to have an experience.
By the way, factoid, Croatia is the only country in Europe where Americans can go. So
that's right. That was the reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So Moona, in your case, I guess the virtual component doesn't exist in the sense that you couldn't have pivoted to a virtual model because you are taking people and tourists to communities. Or
we did consider it. We did consider it in the beginning, in the earlier days, but there's a lot to be said about that human connection that happens at that level, and a lot of the community members we work with are not necessarily used to or accustomed to it. And with the limited time we had, we opted against it. And soon enough, the country opened up, so we were able to focus a lot more on local tourism, which ended up being really positive for us. We were full the entire time, which was great, until the cases spiked again.
Is that what's happened?
I think.
Is that what's happened? The spike has happened again in Jordan?
Yeah, so we've had a few more cases. So in general, Jordan has controlled a lot. We've had very few cases throughout, so just now we're starting to see more happen. But it's been a positive experience to really realize and remember the power, the soft power of travel, and that human connection, even amongst Jordanians, how powerful it can be in really creating an alliance and a beautiful understanding between each other. So that's really been a positive experience for us.
Do you have any hopes in the travel bubble? I know Jordan is part of a sort of a region that potentially that has controlled it better, I suppose, than other places, only because they shut down the countries a lot faster. Do you have any hopes in the travel bubbles?
I don't know. It's so hard to tell these days, but to be honest, I think my biggest concern, and I don't think governments and a lot of these, a lot of the entities that are putting these systems in place are not necessarily looking at the responsibility we have towards the communities as well. So in the areas we work in, you have much fewer healthcare facilities. A lot of them are impoverished areas. So there is a responsibility we have to introducing the virus to these areas. And I really would have wished to see this being taken into account more, even when we start talking about the bubbles. I'd honestly rather not have the business at this point than we do have an ethical responsibility here.
Stephen, so you also you added a business, a completely new business that you added. Just talk about that and talk about how that's going in these times.
Yeah, so I mean, when we first established Mobility Mojo, we did so to ensure that we help to open the world for everyone. And we think that now more than ever, that philosophy and brand stands true. We were sitting on our hands back in March. So it was just before St. Patrick's Day, ironically enough, in Ireland, when we went into lockdown. And we've spent significant sums on world-class technology. And it was actually our developer who suggested that, well, look, we have this incredible software. Why don't we use it to try to support the hospitality industry, and in particular hotels, through this? So while at the moment, the software displays the accessibility information for hotels, our solution now has the ability to help hotels to display all their hygiene information as well. We know that more than 40% of consumers are not happy with the communications they're receiving about hygiene, and 82% of travelers want hotels to share their hygiene procedures. We saw the likes of Marriott and that who would be updating PDFs, and as the hygiene standards evolved over the last couple of months. Every time there was a new standard or every time they implemented something, they'd have to go through the PDFs for each hotel, upload that information and upload it against each. Our software does that in 5 minutes. And we don't charge anything above cost price to hotels for that. And we see it as our way to get people moving, to get people traveling again, and to open up the world, to give everyone their mojo back, and just to get the world moving.
Mm-hmm. And do you foresee that as a, well, I guess depends on how long people care about hygiene. I mean, people should always care about hygiene, but do you see that as a sort of a long-term business for you as well?
Accessibility is our core focus. We see the hygiene piece as a way to support hotels through this time. Looks like we don't know, but it's our way to do our little bit that we can for the industry.
Did any of you try to raise money during these times?
Yeah.
And
so we were in investment conversations right before this happened. In fact, 3 days before starting to shut down and lay people off, we were in one of our final meetings and it was going really well. And so we did not speak throughout the last few months, and then 2 months ago started having conversations again and expanded into speaking with more investors. Funnily enough, 4 of our clients that came to visit us called back saying, we love what you're doing, we're interested, we want to get on board. So it's actually been a positive experience for us. We're still in talks, so let's see what happens. Hopefully next time I'll talk to you. We'll have some news.
Hopefully.
We just started raising money because now that we have a model, we have something to show, like the online product. So we'll see how it shapes up.
Do you think that, and you've had some angel investors, actually people that we know in common, do you think venture investors or professional angel investors, they're shying away from travel, or what's the sentiment you're hearing?
I think they believe in the concept even more. They can now really see why this is so needed in the world, and so I think they're being cautious, but they're seeing that it's more relevant now, so they're more interested. So we'll see how, when the money comes in, that's really when you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And Stephen, obviously you took money, if I remember, from Richard Branson, was, as you said, last year. So you said you're okay for now.
We are now. Just for clarity, no, Branson isn't one of our investors.
Oh, he's not one of our. Okay.
Oh, he's not one of our investors, but we did close around last September, and we have had a number of people approach us only in the last 2 or 3 months. So I do think there's an appetite for angel investors or venture capitalists to invest if the business is right, if the model is right, if it's a long-term thing that you're building value for as well. The COVID thing, it's very difficult to predict what the next couple of months are going to look like. I do think I'm a mostly optimistic person, or a very optimistic person. I do think we are in the eye of a storm at the moment, and I don't think the real effects have been felt just yet. Because of the supports that government have given to industries across the world, and I do think that there's going to be significant fallout, which hasn't been felt yet, which will be felt in a couple of months' time. But at the same time, if you look at the last major crisis we had in 2008, 2009, from that came companies like Airbnb and that. So the queen will rise to the top, and the good companies will come out of this better and stronger as a result.
Let's talk about the support from the government. Each of you are in countries that have had various levels of support for the small businesses. US, I know personally, because obviously we went through it as a company. Geetika, I'm guessing you went through it as well.
Yes.
What has your experience been from support from the government? Muna, we'll start with you.
I was hoping you wouldn't do that. I think the government, our ability as a government anyway to extend a lot of support is limited. Jordan's not a very wealthy country. And I think the inability to put in any sort of, inject anything into the market has really been taken harshly by the industry here. But at the same time, I think it will shake things up. You have a lot of companies that are not going to make it on the other side of this. And I think some of the change will be good. You'll have some of the dinosaur companies, as I like to call them, that will not exist. I think a lot more focus and attention will start being put on sustainable companies or companies that are taking environment and jobs, specifically local jobs, into account. But yeah, we haven't gotten much.
Yeah. Geetika, what was your experience with PPP?
It was, I would just say, the most frustrating and annoying experience ever. I mean, there was a whole pandemic to deal with and a whole company to try and keep afloat and try and fill all that paperwork and really figure out how it all works. Just took like all my brain cells. I mean, we didn't even get our loan amount until end of August. So we were at it since May. So it really took us a long time to keep at it. And so those months were really hard. So yeah, I would say I think there were a lot of initiatives, but how to access them was just really difficult.
And Stephen, I think Ireland, or at least what I read, has done a very good job. Particularly, they've even with travel industry itself. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, Rafa, for the most part. I mean, the Irish government have been very proactive on things. It's costing the national debt is rising significantly because of it. But they see the supporting an industry which is basically non-existent at the moment in hospitality, which accounts for a large proportion of our national income, and they've supported the industry through that. Like I said, there is bad times coming. The supports are there until April of next year. And they're quite generous as well, and they've kept things afloat. But a lot, the Irish culture, the whole pub industry is a big part of that, and the interaction between people at the weekends. Pubs have been closed for the last 6 months, and when you're talking about paying rates, you're talking about paying rent, and you're talking about keeping people employed. Very difficult to do that when you're not opening your doors and you're not getting any revenue. So I do think that there'll be a lot of pubs and those in hospitality which won't be opening again. But at the same time, with the constraints, with everything that's going on, the government have been excellent.
In terms of working with large companies in travel, I don't know if any of you sort of partner with the larger companies. Obviously, Stephen, you do because your clients are those companies. Have they been more understanding through these times? Have you had frustrations working with them? Obviously, they themselves are trying to save their businesses as well, or at least trying to shore up their businesses. Unfortunately, probably laying off lots of people as well. So in terms of working with large travel companies, has that been frustrating, or you think they've done an okay job?
You asking me, Rafat?
Yes.
Yeah, look, for us, the priority is to support them. We know that the hotel industry, for them, the priority is to get their doors open and to get occupancy rates up. Now, what we can do with the software we have is help them with those occupancy rates. But to be honest, it's we're not looking for anything in return. We're there to support them. We're there if they need us. Like, we rise by lifting each other. So we're a very, very values driven company, and like I said, we do have the financial support behind us to survive without any license fees from what we do for the next couple of months as well. So that's the message I want to get out, really, is that we're there for them, not the other way around.
Do you have a hope that people have better understanding of what small businesses mean to the world, and they want to go out of their way? I don't know if out of the way is the right phrase. They want to support small businesses more than ever going ahead.
For sure. I just jumped in, but I feel like I have felt a tremendous support from our community. They want to support small because, again, like, they have seen how the large structures have kind of failed them, and so they want to support, they want to keep them alive, and I think they've been very understanding, and they will want to support more small businesses going forward, more intimate and more personal.
Let's end with this. We talked earlier to Darren, who talked about remote working and how that is intersecting with the future of travel. Obviously, Geetika and Muna, it actually intersects a lot with your businesses as well, with people potentially being able to sort of work as part of experiencing your businesses as well. As you potentially come back into growth mode, are you looking forward to being a remote company, or do you think that you want to be, you don't want to go that route?
I definitely miss having people around, and like that team spirit, thinking together definitely is a significant part. But yes, certainly looking at remote, especially because we work in many different areas. So I think there's a big advantage to that, and we're now definitely building that into our growth model and our replication. How can we be more agile and be more light on our feet and in multiple places? And it really opens up our ability to include more people in our work as well. So definitely, yes.
Yeah. Remote has been kind of in the DNA of VAWAA. I built VAWAA while traveling to 12 countries, and that's how I launched it. So I think it's been part remote from the beginning, and so we'll maintain that. But we definitely miss in person, those moments of collective brainstorming and just meeting deadlines and launching projects. So I think being able to combine both in person and remote would be the key. I kind of really like the flexible model where we can travel and work from anywhere, be together as a team, but also be remote.
Mm-hmm. And are you, the assumptions as you're going into 2021, is the assumption for all of you, it'll be the same as it is, and let's think about 2022 as really where things will come back, or is that the assumption you're working in your business with?
Yeah, I think it's going to take a long time. 2020, 22 is when things will, I feel, start really picking up. I don't even think they'll be fully back. Yeah.
Stephen?
Yeah, I'm definitely in development mode. It's time to build now. If we're able to, it's time to grow, so that when the tourism market does come back, we'll be ready for it.
All right.
Yeah, we've done a lot of improvements in the product over the last couple of months, but we do see opportunities in the world at the moment, and a market that we're looking at is the Asian market, and in particular China, who seem to, hotel occupancy rates seem to be a lot higher there, and there seems to be a lot more travel going on. So I know, if we're focusing on Europe and the US, things are difficult, but there still are opportunities with the world and where we're at the moment. I do think, Rafa, going back to what you were talking about with the support for small businesses thing as well, what we've seen in Ireland in particular is a real community spirit that's come out of this. You feel a real swell of people trying to support each other and to get through this. And with those small businesses, we've seen people buying vouchers so that they can use them in the future, and and trying to support those indigenous and the hospitality businesses in the local communities. And I think there's that real sense of community that's come from this, which is a real positive.
All right, I think we're out of time. Thank you again. Thank you, each of you. Muna, sorry for keeping you up so late, but hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person soon. And with that, we come to an end for this evening, at least evening here in New York. And we'll see you tomorrow morning, Eastern time. These sessions will be available starting tomorrow on demand, and then obviously the others will happen from there as well. So you can watch them live tomorrow, or you can watch them on demand as well. Thank you again.